Ms. Bustos, you're now recognized.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. And thanks to our distinguished panel. Appreciate your service to our country. The congressional district that I represent is in the entire northwest corner of the state of Illinois, includes the Rock Island Arsenal. And so I'd like to ask a question around that. We talk a lot about ships and planes and space capabilities when we look at our national defense. But the majority of the sustainment burden for a prolonged conflict is going to rest with the Army, specifically the Sustainment Command. And obviously that is part of the arsenal, and that leads to my question. If you look at history, we know the pivotal role that the Army played in our victories in the Pacific during World War II. So wondering about the how we prioritize and account for this in the Army's budget and planning if we assume significantly larger investments in the departments of Air Force and Navy. And maybe we'll start with you, General Austin, if you could address that, please.
Of course, we start with the strategy, as we've said earlier, and then we make our investments based upon what it takes to support that strategy. And you are correct. The Army has played a critical role in the past. It is playing a critical role as we speak, and it will always play a critical role. If you look at what the Secretary of the Army and the Chief of the Army is what they're trying to do in terms of making sure that they can meet their requirements and also modernize the force going forward. They're basing their request for resources on that. And we think, as you've heard me say earlier, there's $13 billion or so focused on in this budget, focused on making sure that we can maintain a combat credible land force for both the Army and the Marines. And I really like what we see both the Army and the Marines doing in terms of their investment in modernization and their focus on making sure that they're relevant in any competition, especially any anticipated competition in the Indo-Pacific.
General Milley, anything to add to that?
The Army, relative to the Pacific and relative to some sort of scenario against the People's Republic of China, it is our estimation that the weight of effort would likely be air and sea, maritime and air forces. But having said that, the Marines and the Army will play a very, very critical role in any of those scenarios, as they did as you mentioned, in World War II. Even though that was a maritime theater, there was a tremendous amount of idle landings and seizures and so on and so forth. So it is not a singular service. It is always a joint force executing combined arms operations in all the domains of war to achieve integrated deterrence before war or to achieve victory in the conduct of war. The Army plays a very critical role there. So some of the things the Army is doing in this budget and in their modernization programs, long-range precision fires, for example, is really critical to any type of conflict in the Pacific. Another one is the transformation of a bunch of their formations into multi-domain task forces, as another example. They are making some fundamental changes in the development of rotary wing aircraft and future vertical lift. There's a whole series of modernization initiatives as we move into the future, into the change in the character of war, into the future operating environment the Army is doing to transform itself so that they can achieve an effect, not only in the Pacific, but anywhere else in the world.
The modernization efforts are really exciting. I co-chair the Army Depot and Arsenal Caucus. I co-chair that, and we were briefed recently on the modernization efforts, and I'm going to get into that a little bit as well. So also at the Rock Island Arsenal, we're designated as the Army's Advanced Manufacturing Center of Excellence. We're very proud of that, and obviously supporting the Army's overall goal of modernization. So I'd like to get your thoughts on the importance of advanced and additive manufacturing to the Defense Department. That is what is being centralized through the arsenal. General?
Thanks, and thanks for your support throughout. But this is a very important capability. If you look at additive manufacturing, it enables us to produce some exquisite types of components, and we can do that forward and save time and stress on our logistical chains. And so I think it's a great capability. And as this continues to develop, I'm pretty excited about the possibilities. we know that, you know, a lot of that is playing out in your home state, and we appreciate the support that you provided them. So
13 seconds left. General Milley, anything to add to that?
It's a great capability, and we appreciate what's happening at Rock Island for the entire force.
You guys come over and see us, okay?
Absolutely.
You're invited. Thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.